I'm Vince Gennaro, the founder and executive director of NYU Lab for Transformative Leadership. And we're here for a special conversation today with Jorge Alegría, the CEO of the Mexican Stock Exchange. Jorge, welcome.
Vince, thank you. It's a privilege for us to be involved in the academic world through you. Thank you very much for the opportunity.
Well, it's our pleasure. You have an incredible background, your depth and experience, over 30 years in the global capital markets. I'd be interested in understanding what are some of the major changes, and I'm sure there's many, but what are some of the major changes you've seen as it pertains to the Latin American financial markets over that time?
Sure, I think the changes have been pretty much in line with other regions, but one of the most important changes is when we went to the electronification of the equity markets. Almost 20 years ago, or maybe more than 20 years ago, when we were shouting in the open outcry, and we moved a little bit early than other markets to a full electronic market. That was back in 1999. So
wow.
Yeah, that was a very bold, sharp, quick move by the Mexican industry back in the day. That's a very impressive one. And also the development of the derivatives, a listed derivatives market also in 1998. And we are still evolving after those changes, and we have one more coming now. We hope to do the same with the fixed income market in Mexico. It's still on phone-based trading.
I see.
So it's clear that we are going to be able to move that to a more electronic trading, hopefully very soon.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah.
On this topic of technology, we look at AI, blockchain, decentralized finance. How are some of those new forces that are changing the world, how are they going to impact Latin American financial markets in the Mexican Stock Exchange?
I think that's something we are following very closely. And it has to do with technology a lot. But also, we need to move also in sync with the regulators.
Yes.
Because in many ways, and this is true for all Latin America, including Brazil, that sometimes it's they have a different legal framework, but however they have a huge local equity and capital market as well. But regulators, or the regulation, they need to move in sync to allow the blockchain and other new technologies to move faster and to allow the movement of securities using these great technologies. So the technology is available. We are aware, all the post-trade services in the region are aware. Mexico is not the exception, of course. But I think we have the biggest challenge we have in front of us now is more on the regulatory side to be able to adopt the technology itself. So the technology is there, but the regulatory framework is not there yet.
Yeah, it's got to catch up.
Yes.
So on this point of the way the world is changing, at the Lab for Transformative Leadership at NYU School of Professional Studies that I head up, we spend a lot of time helping executives in different industries cope with the level of complexity that we see today and also the fast pace of change. How do you, over your career, how have you stayed ahead of the curve in doing some of that yourself?
I think there's little doubt that one of the biggest challenges we have in the region is education. The market education is still relatively low in the region. In my case, I think we were part of a financial group that, facing international competition, forced us to adopt international practices faster. So, I mean, you need to keep up with whatever the market is moving, otherwise you will disappear. So, in particular, the Mexican market is a very open economy. The money flows freely in and out. There's no friction in capital flows. So that gives us the enormous opportunity and flexibility to allow international investors to come to the market and to invest in Mexico, but also gives Mexican investors to do the same outside. So we as a marketplace, we need to offer the best in class all the time to keep volumes in Mexico and avoid going out for investors. So
Yeah.
it's a matter of competition.
Yeah. In terms of access to capital for early stage companies, entrepreneurs, is there anything specific you're doing to help facilitate that access to capital for those sources?
We saw in the recent decade, let's say a little bit more than 10 years, enormous growth of private equity. I wouldn't say against the public equity traded in the exchange, but definitely we have seen a very low activity on the IPO business, while international funds and local funds of private equity are taking care of that, what you are saying, funding and providing with capital to medium companies or fintech kind of companies. But that's changing. What we are seeing now is the opportunity of moving that to listed markets. And what we did together with the Mexican authorities is new rules that are already in place to allow medium-sized companies to go public in a much easier way. So less costly, less paperwork to do a sort of what in the US is known as a 144A rule, like a private listing. Well, it sounds a little bit contradictory, but it's allowing Mexican companies to go public in a much easier way. And that's what I think we are going to be connecting both worlds, right? The private equity world with the listed world.
Yeah, that's great. Retail trading, is that a growth segment for the Mexican Stock Exchange, or is that a fairly mature market?
We are seeing globally an incredible growth on retail activity, and Mexico is not the exception. We saw 2020, just when COVID hit, in the whole system of broker dealers in Mexico, we had a little bit more than 250,000, close to 300,000 accounts. So it was a very small segment. Now, just 5 years after, we are close to 20 million accounts. So the growth in number of accounts is huge. A lot of that is retail, of course. However, the challenge we have is to move those activities from, let's say, very small accounts and not very active accounts in the fixed income world, because you need to understand that living in a world where you have a 11, 12, 10% interest rate, almost free rate of that level, people feel pretty comfortable in staying in the fixed income world. Sure. Now the rates are coming down, so we expect to move those accounts to a more actively traded on equities that we are seeing definitely in the US and in other countries, especially Asia. So the opportunity is huge for retail growth in the Mexican securities industry.
Yeah, yeah. And finally, I want to just ask you, what would your message be to investors who are looking to deploy capital in the Latin American market?
I think right now we are seeing a cycle where after many, many years of growth in the developed markets, led by the US markets, I think we are going to start seeing, and we have a good chance to see some capital allocation back to emerging markets. Like maybe 10, 15 years ago, that flow will start to move to emerging markets because valuations are very attractive. So I think it is worth to take a look at it now to see some Mexican companies very attractive in terms of valuation and in a way help to diversify the portfolios. And again, I think we are in that part of the cycle to see that happening.
Well, that's terrific. Jorge Alegría, CEO of the Mexican Stock Exchange. Thank you so much today. We enjoyed the conversation.
My pleasure. Hope to be back soon. Thank you.